I believe it's a good time that we can get started. People will keep on joining us. Niharika.
All right. So give me a heads up when you start seeing my screen. Somebody raised their hand. Is there a question?
All right, your screen is visible.
Okay. So 2 people raised their hands. Is there a question? If you have a question, please unmute yourself and ask already.
I don't think they can unmute, can they?
Yeah? Okay. Sorry.
You just have to ask in chat.
Okay. All right. So Nick will keep an eye on the chat, and even I will keep looking at it occasionally. So good evening, everybody. It's Saturday evening for you, and I hope I'm not interrupting any plans. But rest be assured, you will take away some really cool insights and information from here. So I'm super excited to be here today, and we're going to talk about a topic some of you may have heard about already, and some of you may not have. And it has a lot of potential, and it will have a huge impact on our lives. To just get an idea from the audience, can I get a show of hands or something on the reaction in the chat? How many of you are already familiar with blockchain at some level? Maybe you can just raise your hand or react in chat, anything. Okay, I see more and more hands going up. 6. Sankarshan, Devashri, Sushmita, Sulaksh, Samyak, Ayush, Tushar, Tejas, Shafali, Dinsha. Awesome. This is so cool. All right. For those of you who don't know, it's no problem. We'll fix it in a bit. So let me start by introducing myself. I'm Niharika, and I work with Decentology as a product manager. And I have been active in the blockchain industry since my college days, since back in 2017. I did my bachelor's from India and my master's from Switzerland, and that's where I am right now. And I'm also very pleased to introduce you to my colleague and my friend, Nick Kalyani. I'll just pass over the mic to him for a quick bit.
Thank you, Niharika. Hey guys, welcome everybody. So excited to be here with you. So I'm Nick. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Decentology, and I'm in Mountain View, California. It's bright and early for me. It's 5:30 a.m. So, I got all my energy here with my first cup of chai and ready to kick ass. So Decentology is our startup, and Niharika is the star of the show here today. So I'm going to turn it back to you. Kick ass, Niharika.
All right. Thank you, Nick. So here's in a nutshell what we do at Decentology. Our company is headquartered in the beautiful city of Mountain View in California, and we are very passionate about creating products that simplify development, blockchain development, for developers who are willing to transition into Web3. And our signature product is Dapp Starter, which we will take for a ride in just a little while. And in addition to business, one of our core principles is to create a better world, a more fair world, equitable world. And we want to make it happen by getting gender balance into the crypto industry. Right now, the rate is quite skewed. And to foster gender equity, here's what we're doing about it. So if you're a woman and you attended this webinar and you created a project with Dapp Starter, which I will show you in just a little while how to do it, you can win a scholarship to University of California, Berkeley's professional certificate in blockchain fundamentals. And for this, you just need to write your full name in the webinar chat, and my friend Nick will take a screenshot of it. In addition to that, just send an email. Just email a scanned PDF of your college ID and send it to scholarship@decentology.com. And make sure that the ID the name on the ID is same as what you write on the chat. And then when we receive your ID, we will send back you a form where you will be asked to submit the GitHub repository link, or if you hosted the project somewhere, you can share both the links in that case. So, all right, now let's get the show started. So what we see here on this slide is a very high-level overview of the life cycle of a transaction on a blockchain. So someone sends a transaction to a blockchain. It's broadcasted to all the nodes slash peers slash computers in the network. And depending on the blockchain protocol or the software these nodes are running, these nodes carry out various cryptographic and mathematical operations to validate the block. And once the block is validated, it's added to the blockchain. It's added to the chain. And at this point, the transaction is said to be settled or completed. And a question might arise in your mind that what gives life to a blockchain? Where are all these transactions coming from? And this is the answer. Smart contracts are the answer. The heartbeat of a blockchain comes from smart contracts. A smart contract is simply a program that runs on the blockchain. And you as a developer would be responsible of writing one. It's just a collection of code which has a lot of functions defined within it. And it also holds a little bit of data, which is also referred to as state. And this contract resides on a specific address on the Ethereum blockchain. And users or anybody who's using your application can interact with it by submitting transactions that will essentially execute some functions within the smart contract. And while programming smart contracts, there are three things to keep in mind. The first one would be the immutability of code. So that means once you deploy your smart contract on the blockchain, there's no way you can change it. And that's the beauty of a blockchain, that it's immutable. The second thing is cost. So each and every line of code that you write on in your smart contract, it will cost your user some money, or in technical terms, gas, when they want to execute it. So if they are calling a function X, and it has, let's say, 10 lines of code. So each line of code would have some associated gas with it, which your user will have to pay upfront. The third thing is storage. Storing any data or state on the smart contract is very, very expensive. So you do not want to consider the blockchain as a database. It's just a ledger. So if you want to store anything, choose a different option. Do not store like a movie or something on the blockchain. It's going to cost you a lot of money. So with this high-level overview of the blockchain, with this knowledge, we have the tools to compare and contrast between Web 2 architecture and Web 3 architecture. And what we see on this slide is a very typical architecture in which the user, they send a request to a web server, which in turn sends a request to an API server, and which in turn sends a request to a database server. And at any given junction here, we can have multiple web servers, multiple API servers, or database servers. And they're all in sync with each other, communicating constantly in a very secured fashion. So this is the canonical architecture of Web 2.0 as we see it today. And I'm just going to take a pause to see if you have any questions already. And I see Shafali has raised her hand. Do you have any questions, Shafali? Okay. If you do have a question, just write it in the chat. And this is the Web 3.0 architecture. So what we see here is a decentralized architecture. So your client app, the front end of your app can be hosted anywhere that you want. But for the sake of Web3 principles, it would be the best if you choose a decentralized hosting platform instead of hosting it on Heroku or a platform like that. So you might ask, what kind of decentralized hosting platforms can I use? So the answer to that would be you can use platforms such as Fleek, you can use platforms such as Saya, IPFS, Arweave, and Nick will also post those links in chat, so you can check them out. So your client app will be communicating with the smart contract that's hosted on the blockchain. And this is how the give and take works here in this architecture and how Web3 typically works. And at this point, you would be surprised to know that you already have plenty of skills to begin your journey as a blockchain developer. You don't have to, I don't know, climb the Mount Everest to prove it. So if you already have a working knowledge of some front-end framework or a library such as React, you already have 70 to 80% of the skills that are required for you to be a Dapp developer. The only thing you have to learn would be how to write a smart contract. And depending on the blockchain you choose, it can be done in many languages. So on Ethereum, it's in Solidity. On Flow blockchain, it's in Cadence. On Solana, it's in Rust. And on Quantum, it's in TypeScript. So yeah, and at this point, you're probably convinced that you already have most of the skills in your quiver. And the next question that might come to your mind if I was in your place would be, how much do smart contract developers make? And the answer to that is here, right here on the screen. And these numbers are not exaggerated. They're really, really true. And if I was in your place, I would be very, very attracted to it right now, given that I would already have some working knowledge of how to make dApps, smart contracts, and yeah, so just let your creativity fly. And this is a good point to see if we have any questions from the audience. All right, not yet. But if you do, just please interrupt me. I'd be happy to answer them. And at this point, we'll also consider taking on a hands-on demo of Dapp Starter. So the scholarship program that I mentioned a few minutes ago. So if you're a woman and you attended this webinar, you have to make a project with Dapp Starter, and this is how you would go about it. So I think I'm just sharing one screen at the moment. So let me share the entire window. Can you see it?
Niharika, you've got the browser in there also. The Google Meet is what we are seeing. So
okay. Mm-hmm. This should fix it. Okay, so so what I'm doing right now is I hit this URL, dappstarter.decentology.com, and this is where you will be able to create your projects. And so I see a bunch of questions on chat. What's the median salary and the exact breakup of the package?
I'll take care of answering those questions, Niharika. You can go
all right, thanks, Nick. Yeah. Cool. So on this website, dappstarter.decentology.com, you can generate your project. And here you can see we have a whole bunch of blockchains mentioned here. So let's say you want to develop on Ethereum blockchain, we select Ethereum. And the language we want to program the smart contracts in is Solidity. So had you been willing to deploy an application on Solana, you select Solana, and the language would then change to Rust, because smart contracts on Solana are written in Rust and not Solidity. So let's switch back to Ethereum. And then you're prompted to ask which framework would you like to use for your client side. So here we have two options, Vanilla.js and React. And we have made sure that the client is not at all opinionated. So even if you use Vanilla.js with the help of Web Components, you can use whichever framework you would like to use, for example, Angular or Vue, whichever one you want. And step two would be smart contract features. So here's where Dapp Starter really shines. So what we did was we abstracted some common design patterns and package them into modules. So here, what you're seeing right now is the whole set of modules that we have: access control, asset and value tracking, non-fungible tokens, and more. So one of the use cases we'll go over today is contract run state. So this gives you the ability to pause the operation of your smart contract. And a really cool use case for that would be if a hacker tried to snipe your smart contract, you want to restrict access to your smart contract so that nobody is able to send transaction requests. So this is very handy for that. So we select contract run state, and the second module we select is IPFS documents. A few moments ago, I told you about IPFS and how you can store various, host your application, or as a matter of fact, store images or audio or movies on IPFS as opposed to a centralized database. So we're going to choose IPFS as a provider for that. And the third step would be to give your Dapp a name. So I'm going to name it demo. And let's create the Dapp. And what it's going to do in the background is it's going to generate full stack code for you and push it to GitHub. And this generates a unique repository for us. So let me copy this and show it to you on GitHub. And right here, you see that this is the exact repository that we generated. This is the full stack code. And let me open this in my Visual Studio Code here. Just a moment, let me git clone it. Let's git clone this here and open the repository. Open. Perfect. And a lot of you who are already into web development would know that the first thing you would do with any project is to install the dependencies. You can use npm install, or you might be using Yarn. For Dapp Starter particularly, we chose Yarn as a package manager. So I'm going to run Yarn. And what it's going to do is download all the dependencies associated with the project. So those could be some internal libraries we'll be using behind the scenes and all of that. And while that happens, I'll show you the file structure breakdown we have in our project here, so you get a good idea of what each file is doing. So mostly we will be working in the packages folder. And within packages, we have 3 folders: client, dapplib, and server. Most of our work will be limited to client and dapplib. Client, as the name suggests, it's the front end where the user will be clicking buttons. It would be the GUI. And dapplib would be where most of your business logic of the application would be residing. And that's where we would have our smart contracts. So if I open dapplib, expand contracts, we see all these Solidity files. And if I open dappstate.sol, you'll see that this code is very heavily commented. So if you just read through it, you will be able to understand what's going on here. And based on the choices we made at dappstarter.decentology.com, it's going to pull in the relevant code in dappstate.sol. So for example, we pulled in access control contract run state. So it's going to import some states for that. We also chose file storage for IPFS. So it's going to import a lot of code for IPFS. And in addition to that, we also have functions, which we will see in a moment. So this was your contracts, and the way contracts interact with the client is via this very critical file here, dapplib.js. So your client side will never directly interact with the smart contract. It will always go through dapplib.js. And I will get to dapplib.js in a second. And here we see we are done with the Yarn process. And the next command I'm going to run is yarn start. And what it will do is it will compile all these contracts in Solidity, and it will also deploy those contracts to the blockchain. And the blockchain it will deploy it to would be the local blockchain that's running on my machine. And that's also taken care of by YarnStart. It will pull up the local blockchain on its own. And if we then head over to localhost 5000, we will see this beautiful page. It means that your blockchain application, your full stack blockchain application is up and running. And this is it has two sections to it: home and UI harness. Under home section, this is where you will be removing all of this code and injecting your own application logic or creating your own UI. The UI harness gives you a nice playground for you to interact with the contracts just to see how they all work. And here, I'm going to demo you contract run state and IPFS documents. And you see that there's a third module that has been pulled in, administrator role. So the code generator that we used at dappstarter.decentology.com that figured out that contract run state is dependent on administrator roles. So it also pulled in this module automatically so that your application does not break if you select an option and the dependency is not installed. So let's see what contract run state would mean. So when I click on it, I see two action cards here, and with the green button and with the orange button. The green button means that we are reading from the blockchain, and the orange button with submit would mean that we are writing or changing the state of the blockchain. And here I'd like to point out that reading from the blockchain is free of cost, and writing to the blockchain is going to cost us gas. So in this particular example, if we want to see if the contract is active or not, we click on view. And it says that yes, the contract run state is active. And if I want to, let's say some hacker tried to get into this and they're stealing my money, I want to pause this. So I would use this function, set contract run state then. And it has a switch widget. So if I check it, it means that the contract should be running. If I uncheck it, it means that the contract should be paused. So let me pause the contract by clicking on the submit button. And what it did is it gave me a transaction hash. And if you also look at my terminal window here in VS Code, you would see the same exact hash, the gas it used to do that, which block is it on, and time at which it happened. So this is telling you that the local blockchain emulator of Ethereum is running on our machine, and this is the result it spits out when we make a write transaction to the blockchain. And now if I click on is contract run state active, this button again, what do you think will be the reply here? It says yes right now, but if I click this right now, what do you think would be the result? And it would be awesome if you could just indicate your thoughts in the chat. What do you think will be the result? Mm-hmm.
Inactive.
Okay, seems like it's a trick question. So let me click on view, and it says that the contract run state is not active anymore. And this verifies that set contract run state did its job perfectly all right. So let me turn it back on again and submit. And we see another block being mined here. And let's click on view again, and it says, yes, it's functioning. Perfect. So this was a gist of contract run state. The second module I want to demo is IPFS documents. So IPFS stands for Interplanetary File System, and it's a decentralized file storage. So instead of storing all your data on smart contract, which is a really bad practice, you would store your files on a platform such as IPFS. So let me upload an image here and give it a description. This is Kansas City. And let me click on submit. And voila, it submitted this image to the blockchain, and the blockchain got the hash stored. So the image has a hash. Everything can be hashed out. So IPFS uses this hashing algorithm where it always starts with QM, and then you have your 30 bytes ahead of it. So all you save on the blockchain is the hash and not the image. And let's verify that this image is truly on IPFS. So if I click on this, it's going to take me to another tab, and it says it's hosted on ipfs.infura.io. And I'm going to paste this link in the chat so that you can also see it on your computer. And it also says that I'm not lying. It's truly there on IPFS. So let me know if it works on your computer, if you're able to see the image. And at the moment, I submitted my transaction as an admin. And one of the cool things about DappStarter is that we have a lot of test accounts for you. So if you want to use a particular address, you can change the links here and just be them. Awesome. I'm seeing that Sushmita and Mukul confirmed that it actually works. Devashri, Mohit Kumar as well. Awesome. It's working. Eureka. So let's see what documents are uploaded to the blockchain or to IPFS from this owner, from this account. And when we click on view, we get this string, which is the same as the document ID here. So you see that as an admin, I uploaded one document. And if I copy this and paste it in the first one, it should get me all the details associated with this document, with this ID. And when I click on view, I see a label, Kansas City, and the Unix timestamp, and the owner. And if you keep an eye on the owner, you would see that the owner address is the same as admin address. And then we see a digest and all of that. So it worked like a charm there. So I'm going to pause here for just a couple seconds to see if you have any questions. Okay, keep the chat rolling if you have any questions. And what I'm going to do now is dive back right into the code to tell you how it's all wired up. How are all these components connected? How is the front end interacting with the smart contract? So I already told you about dappstate.sol, and this is where most of the application logic resides. And I want you to pay close attention to the function names here in the smart contract. One of the functions, we have a question, Devashri, ma'am, I'm not clear about how you were able to connect VS Code with it. So all I did, Devashri, was clone this GitHub repository on my machine. And this repository is generated to you each time you go to dappstarter.decentology.com and git clone it, run yarn, do yarn start. If you read the README here, it clearly explains everything I've been saying till now. So if you are still not clear about it, we're happy to help you. Just hop onto our Discord at discord.gg/Decentology, and we'll get you started with your project.
Yeah, Niharika, if I can add a little bit of color to that, I think what Devashri is saying is what's happening in the Visual Studio Code, Devashri, is that Niharika is running a blockchain emulator and a web server, a developer web server. And by executing those, she's seeing the results of that in the browser on the left.
I hope that answers your question. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so let's get back. So if you keep an eye on the function, it's one of the functions is contract run state active. Let me switch my UI back to run state. And the other one is set contract run state. And like I told you, your client app will never be communicating directly with the smart contract. So what's in the middle? Dapplib is in the middle. And for each function that you write in your contract, you need to have a function for it in Dapplib. For is contract run state active, you would have a separate function. For set contract run state, you would have a separate function. So the first action card you see, it's corresponding to this function right here. And this name on line 24, this should be exactly identical to what you have here on your smart contract. And the other thing to keep in mind while writing this in dapplib.js is you see blockchain.get. So the first action card here is simply you're just viewing something. So you're just getting some data, querying the blockchain. So that's why we have this blockchain.get. And in the second action card, you have blockchain.post because you're posting something or altering the state of the blockchain. And again, on line 42, this is the name of the function, and this would be exactly the same as you would write on your smart contract. And in addition to that, this was quite similar to the get function till now. Only change was we added post instead of get. And the other thing to keep in mind here is that when we are writing to the blockchain, we're submitting different kinds of data. For example, in the second action card, we are submitting whether we want the contract to be active or not. And if we look at the Solidity code, we are sending in a Boolean. True means that the contract is active, and false means that the contract is paused. So we're submitting a Boolean value. And to make sure that these parameters are clearly communicated to the smart contract, we have this line here. So right after you define your function, you write data.mode. So data means there could be like n number of parameters that you want to pass to the blockchain in order to make your app work. But in this case, we only have just one parameter that's defined in our smart contract here, bool mode. That's it. If we had more than one, let's say we say that we want to pause the smart contract for all the transactions that have a value greater than $5,000 or something, so that if you're trying to send a transaction which is worth more than $5,000, it should be reverted. It should not go through. So for that, you might want to pass an additional parameter here called data.value, and the change that would be reflected in your .sol file would be probably a uint 256 value. And this is a use case that I just wanted to demonstrate to you, and this is how you would do it. And so this explains what the changes you would have to make in dapplib.js. And as you see me make these changes, I hit Command S or Control S on my keyboard several times. And what it did was it hot loaded the code. So each time you press Command S, it's going to recompile the code front end, as well as if you make any changes in the Solidity file, and they would automatically be reflected on your localhost 5000. So you as a developer do not have to restart your server over and over again each time you make a tiny little change. And okay, so now you know how the smart contract is interacting with the Dapplib. To fit the puzzle, to paint the picture completely, you would also need to know how the client is interacting with Dapplib, right? So let me collapse Dapplib right here and go into the client folder and open the source. So what you see here on the home screen on the left-hand side of my window, that's the place you want to make changes to. And you can find this page under Pages, under dapp.js. And here, if I give you a very quick demo of what it would look like, if I just change it to demo of Dapp Starter at IIT Gandhinagar, it would reflect right here. on the client. And ideally what you would want to do is just remove all this code and inject your own stuff here. So what you see on UI harness, this is also a part of client, and I'll show you how it's made. So if we head over to the harness folder, you would see all these modules there. And the one we're particularly interested in is contract run state. So this would have right here, you can see two action cards. One of them is right here, and the other one is right here. And the beautiful part about this client is that all these action cards you're seeing here are nothing but web components. And the way we made it possible was by using this library called lit element, which allows you to create your own web components and play with them just in a plug and play fashion. And here in this web component called action card, there are various properties that we have. We have a title, description, action, and method. So for the first action card, you see the title is contract run state active. Let me add some stuff here and save it. So you see that it already picked up on that change and reflected it on the client. The description is the line below this right here. Check if the contract run state is active. The action here is very important for you to get right. This should be the same as what you would write on DAPLib right here on line 15. So this is like super important to get it right. The next and the last property is method. So method can be get or post. And with respect to this action card, it will make sense if we write method as get, because we're just querying the blockchain to get something. If I write post here, it's not going to break. All it's going to do is change the styling of this button, and it will look like a regular post button. So it changed the color and it changed the text. So otherwise, the functionality will not break. All right, so this was one action card. And if you have any questions, don't keep them to yourself. The best way to learn is to ask, and no question ever is too dumb. Keep that in mind. The next action card here that I'm going to explain is set contract run state. And here we'll be dealing with how to send data to the blockchain. So all these properties remain the same. In method, get changes to post. And in fields, what we pass is the parameters that we pass to the smart contract function. So if we had that value use case going on, that all the transactions over 5,000 are reverted, I would also write this right here. And in the next line, you see that we have a switch widget that's nested within this action card. And this switch widget is this little checkbox that we have here, and it's capturing the Boolean value that we are trying to send to the smart contract. And it has a property called field. So in action card, we have fields. It can have they can have multiple parameters. In a switch widget, at a moment, one parameter can be passed. That's why it's field, and it's capturing mode. So these two, again, should be identical. Let me remove value from here. And if you wanted to add more web components to it, we have a whole bunch of web components right here under this components folder. For example, account widget, action button, action card, you already see that in action, array widget, and so many more. So feel free to try all of them out and see, let us know how you like it. And now that I displayed to you how this client is made, I'm also going to show you how easily you can customize your Dapp. Let's say that I want to pick up these two action cards and put them right here in this main page. So for that, all I have to do is copy these two action cards right here, go to this page home, which is dapp.js. Let's remove all these lines of code and paste those action cards here and save them. And what it's going to do is it's going to inject these action cards right here on the home page. And that's how easy it is to, transfer action cards from one place to another just to customize your app. And in here, if you notice, the switch I was talking to you about, that's missing. And the reason that's missing is that you have to make sure all these web components are imported correctly. So let me import the switch widget right here. Instead of upload widget, let me add switch widget and save it. And we would see that the switch widget is back in action again. And this is how you would customize your app. And girls, take a note of it. So when you're creating your Dapp Starter project, this is exactly what you're supposed to do. So sky's your limit. Be creative. Write your own smart contract if you can, and yeah, let us know. And you already know how to do it. Just write your name in the chat and send your college ID at scholarship@decentology.com. And this sums up the demo of Dapp Starter. And do you have any questions now? All right, so looks like Sushmita and Nick are already in conversation.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes. Hi, Tejas.
Yes. So, ma'am, I have one. I want to ask something. I wanted to know that I had completed the course named Bitcoin and Cryptocurrency from California, Berkeley, powered by DDX, and I'm doing the blockchain technology course also, about which Nick shall just were talking about. So after completion, how can I utilize them to move forward in the blockchain industry?
How can you move forward? Okay, so I would say at a very high level, follow your curiosity, because at the moment, whichever course you take in blockchain, it will answer some questions, but it will also raise many more questions.
Yes.
So if you check out Ethereum's developer resources, you will see a lot of good information about blockchain and the nitty-gritties of it. And with this demo, and you can find more Dapp Starter workshops on YouTube. You can learn and rewatch those videos again to see how you can get your app going on. In addition to that, at Decentology, we are taking a lot of initiatives, and we are organizing a whole bunch of hackathons. So you can take part in those hackathons and hone on your skills. And like I said, at any point of time, if you feel you're stuck, just drop a message in our Discord, and my lovely team will be happy to help you, and probably even get on a Zoom call with you if you need more assistance.
So how can I contact?
Just join our Discord server. Are you familiar with Discord?
Yeah, I am familiar with Discord.
Okay, so just join our Discord server and shoot your question there, and we will get back to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Right, Niharika. So I guess to wrap things up a little bit, I have a couple of questions. I wanted to ask you about your journey. Going from knowing very little about blockchain into becoming a blockchain engineer.
Absolutely. And like I told all of you in the beginning, that my blockchain journey started when I was in college. So exactly at the same time as you guys are in. So I was in my second year in my third year in 2017 when I started. And what I told Tejas, I'll repeat it again. Follow your curiosity. So at that time, Bitcoin was trading at around 3,000 or 4,000, and it was getting a lot of traction, a lot of publicity from people, and that got me curious. What is this? So when I read about Bitcoin, I also learned about Ethereum, and then Ethereum has like so much more power in terms of engineering and smart contracts than Bitcoin. And then it was a rabbit hole, and eventually I found myself connecting all these dots. And while I was learning about all of it, I was consuming so much information in such a brief period of time. I started blogging about it. And I used to write blogs almost like on a daily basis, like a journal. And that's how Nick found me. He read my blogs, and then he really liked them. And I would also encourage all of you to follow your curiosity, all the things, all the questions that you're probably not asking in these webinars. Maybe you're shy, it's all right. Just Google them. Don't let them be in your head. Yeah.
Thanks, Niharika. I guess for the participants here today, I want to tell you that at Decentology, as we've mentioned, we are sort of on this mission to onboard the first 10 million Web2 developers to Web3, and the way we are going to get there is by having sort of grassroots meetings with people just like yourselves. And we are super excited because we want to welcome more and more developers in the ecosystem. And what we look for at these webinars is to see who is engaged, who is learning, and who then follows up with us in our Discord, because those are the people that we want to identify to make part of our larger community. We are actually building something called a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. And there we want to give monetary compensation to people who are engaged and actually wanting to participate in the community. So please join our community. Please, try out Dapp Starter. And specifically, I want to call out any women in the audience. If you haven't yet posted, then please post girl power and your name so that we can record it. And then we'll send you a link. And that link will get you going on your journey to a $200 blockchain course through UCLA Berkeley, which is one of the top-notch organizations in the world. So really looking forward to engaging with you in our Discord and on Twitter. I posted both our Twitter handles there for you.
Thanks, Nick.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you. I believe it's already answered the question that Tejas has asked. Thank you so much for being here, Nick and Niharika. It was definitely an enlightening lecture, and I believe a lot of the people that are here will definitely start, get their package started with Dapp Starter and try to build something which is the most important part, right? In the end, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vinayak. Great to have you guys. Great to see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.